You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We've been talking a lot this morning about just the state of the national real estate market. What are some of the issues that we're facing right now? What are some of the headwinds that we're experiencing in the real estate market, whether it be threats of a bubble bursting or opinions of those that believe certain indexes lead us to the assumption that the market's about to crash. Other people say, hey, it's great. It's a fantastic market. You should definitely buy. How do you sort through all this stuff is really the question here. And so one of the ways of doing that is by better understanding what's happening here locally and by not getting too caught up in what's happening nationally. Yes, it has an impact on us here locally and directly, but as a local market, we're in an interesting situation. I'll say it that way. You have certain segments of our market that are still very much so a seller's market. When we get listings in these areas and these price ranges, firstly, as it relates to first-time home buyers, we're selling them in a matter of days. We're selling them for asking price. Sellers are getting favorable terms. The transaction is going incredibly well for the seller, and the buyer ultimately is happy because they have now finally found a home that they can buy. You know, what's interesting is that as the market shifts from a seller's market to a normal market to a buyer's market, the motivation of the buyer and the seller kind of change. Obviously, buyers always want a deal, right? They always want to get the best home for the lowest price at the best terms. But in an extreme seller's market, I wouldn't say it's extreme at this point, but a seller's market like we have at the first-time home buyer price range across the Tri-County area of Charleston, the incentive for a lot of buyers isn't necessarily to get it for the lowest money possible. It's just to get it. It's just to get a home that they win the bid on without feeling like they've overpaid, so that they can now own a home, start to build long-term wealth, raise a family in a home that they own where they don't have to be told what to do by a landlord or so on and so forth. So you've got the first-time home buyer price range that's doing very well for sellers. Then you have the move-up market. And let me just go back to the first-time home buyer price range really quickly. The demand is very high among the people that can afford to buy a house. As prices continue to go up, as a rising tide lifts all boats, it inevitably pushes out some people that can no longer afford to own a home. They just cannot afford the monthly payment with the monthly debt that they currently have, whether it be student loans, car loans, whatever the case might be. So that then affects the move-up market. And here's why. Now we're talking about first-time home sellers in many instances that now want to buy a more expensive home in a market where inventory is balanced, but there are fewer buyers because they need to sell their home in the first-time home buyer price range, of which buyers are fewer, but the market is very strong. But can they then find something attractive enough to move into? So you've got the middle market that, in my opinion, is kind of flat right now. And then you've, of course, got the luxury market where we're starting to see people become more realistic about their price. I'm going to spin it that way because, yes, we're seeing more price reductions. Yes, we're seeing plenty of closings in the luxury price range. I mean, we've had some fantastic success this year. Great success stories with folks, million plus. Folks, we sold one this week. They had it on the market for 3 years with other agents, and we sold it in a month for almost asking price. We had another one that we sold for 1.75. We ended up selling it over asking price in under a month. And it was a very specialty property. And so we're going to talk a little later about how to prepare your home for sale and how to get those results. But let's continue our discussion here about this local market, because what's really happening is this. We're starting to see a bit of a reduction in closings, really for two reasons. Number one, because inventory is just low. When you have less inventory, there's less to choose from. People just can't make sense out of making the move, and they're not going to settle for a home that they would need to sell and then a buy, or a home that they want to buy if they're not happy with the home they can buy. So they have to wait for the inventory to present itself before they seriously consider putting their home on the market for a first-time home buyer to buy. so that we can make everything work. It's all connected. It's a circle. And so one of the big challenges, of course, is a lack of closings. People are reading into that, and that's just being driven by the fact that the inventory is just low. But in some price ranges, in some areas, inventory has shot way up. There are certain price ranges in Mount Pleasant, as an example, where inventory is up 75% from this time last year, certainly from 2 years ago. And so it's really hard and frankly unfair to characterize any one specific market through stats because of the incredible range of property type and price range within our Tri-County area. And that's frankly what makes selling real estate in Charleston so fun, especially for someone like me, is that I can sell the waterfront properties that I love to sell. I can sell the downtown properties. I can sell the equestrian properties. I can sell, tracts of land. I can sell the first-time home buyer, a condo, a townhome, all kinds of different options that make it really fun and exciting for a real estate agent. But then again, as it relates to you, the person that is trying to make sense out of this market, let me help you better understand really what's happening here, kind of at a grander scale. And here's what it is. You're noticing properties starting to sit on the market a little longer. You're noticing properties starting to reduce their price a little more aggressively and a little more frequently. We've had about a 25% increase in the number of price reductions this year compared to last year, and inventory is down, 15%? So you take all of that into consideration, and by and large, it does mean that our market is correcting, it's shifting, it's returning toward normalcy, which just means that the rate by which properties are appreciating is starting to slow down. One of the reasons for that is because as prices start to flatline, real estate agents and sellers need to follow that trend. And in many instances, they're not. If we have such low inventory and we have a market that's flooded with real estate agents, we're the second most saturated real estate market in the country. We've got over 7,000 agents here in Charleston. And so when they want a listing, which is so hard to get and so far and few between, what do? They just tell the seller, hey, try this price. Try this price. It's still a good market. And the property ends up sitting, and then 30, 45 days later, they say, you know what, let's go ahead and drop the price. I think we missed the mark on this one, which they knew in the beginning if they did their homework. But they want your listing. They want you to trust them. They want the sign in the yard, and so they're going to say what they need to say and do what they need to do to get you to sign on the dotted line. The only problem with that is that now you've kind of lost the most important amount of time that you as a seller need when you're marketing your property, the first 30 to 45 days, first 4 to 6 weeks. Now, why do I say that? If you look at the showing curve, the number of showings that you should expect every week from interested buyers, the first few weeks are going to be the highest. And then it's just going to go down steadily until you make some sort of change to attract new people or re-engage the people that have already looked at your property and said, I'm just not interested at that price. And namely, it's through reducing the price. And we had a show a few weeks ago about other creative things and ways you can create interest without just reducing the price. And so if you'd like more information on that, check out our blog or podcast website, charlestonrealestateradio.com, which has all of our previous episodes, over I think 300 of them. And of course, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, all over the place. Just check out the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. But the going back to what I was mentioning here is the challenge in our market right now is that agents are not setting the initial listing price at a more attractive price. They are continuing this assumption that prices are going up across the board. And so what that really means is that over the course of the past year or so, properties that hit the market are becoming more and more overpriced when they first list, which means that they're taking longer to sell, which means that there has to be more aggressive price reductions in order to get it sold. And from the seller's perspective, again, they're thinking, well, if I have to drop my house this much, I don't want to quote unquote give it away, because that's the fear the sellers always have is, I don't want to give this home away. I don't want to sacrifice money that I could have otherwise made. I don't want to make a rush decision. This isn't a fire sale. But in reality, for many of these listings, it is not the reduction that is needed is not synonymous with a fire sale or giving the home away. It's just returning the price to where it should be in order for a buyer to say, yes, I'll buy it. And that's always one of the most challenging conversations that agents have with their clients is, where do we need to be priced in order to generate an offer? Because when you're on the market, here are the things that really matter. Showings and offers. People are always going to have varying degrees of feedback. I didn't like the location. I didn't like the floor plan. There are going to be things that people say that you can't do anything about. You're going to have those people that come through that say, oh, yeah, we love the house. It was really nice, but we're thinking of retiring and, putting our house on the market maybe sometime next year in Florida. And when that sells, we're maybe going to buy in Charleston or Myrtle Beach or, Atlanta or I don't know, which really frustrates the seller because now they've just left their house for, an hour and spent an hour before that cleaning it up to have a buyer walk through that shouldn't have been there in the first place. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, how to pre-qualify showings and what we do. But the market is balancing itself out. It's returning to normalcy. The challenge is the numbers aren't going to reflect that yet. They're starting to, in some areas, in some price ranges to a degree, but if you're focused on the number, the stat for the month, what you really need to be focused on is the trend line. And so when we sit down with our clients, we say, this is what we expect is going to happen. This is what's been happening since the spring of this year. The spring of a market is really kind of the telltale sign as to how that market is going to perform. And this spring was a bit weak. It was weaker than it has been in the past 2 years. 2017 was super strong. 2018 was still really good. This year, we were expecting more. But now we're starting to see these prices come down. We're starting to see sellers become more realistic about how much they know they can get for the house. And they're either saying, yep, let's do it. Let's reduce the price to where we need to be in order to get it sold. Or they're saying, no, Mr. Real Estate Agent, I don't believe you. You're fired. I'm going to hire somebody else that can sell my home for more money. And if that first agent was telling the truth, then they get fired. They hire some other real estate agent that lists the property for what the seller wants. The property languishes for what ends up being several months. And then finally, they reduce the price to the price that agent number one suggested, and it gets sold. And that's just the reality of our business, and that's just how some people choose to operate and how they make decisions. But then you also have that group of people that just decide not to sell at all and renovate their house and just live where they currently own. So very interesting what's happening in our market right now. If you want to try and make sense out of what's happening in your specific market, if you want to know what the trends look like in your area, in your price range, in your neighborhood, you want to come up with a plan to sell your home and how much you can expect to make out of that and how long that's going to take, and then what you can afford based on that profit that you have. What are the homes going to look like that you can purchase once you sell? If you want to come up with that plan and talk about the process of selling a home and buying another and how we make all that work to ensure that you don't get either homeless by selling your home before you buy one or owning two homes at the same time. We have not had that happen in the 13 years that I've been selling real estate, and we've done over 1,000 transactions. I'm very proud of that. So if you want to learn more about how that process works, you want to get more information on the current value of your home and how much you would walk away with once it sells so that you can then plan with confidence for the home that you're going to purchase, then give me a call, 843-345-1273. Again, that's 843-345-1273. Or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And when we come back, I'm going to give you guys the highlights from my 90 things to do to sell your home for top dollar report, which I'm also giving away for free. If you'd like a copy of that, text the word report to 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. Or just send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. And stick around. We'll be right back for the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA.